Good afternoon. This is Briefing the Chief. I'm your host, Patrick Jordan, here on KJRadio.com. That is KJRadio Radio. You can catch us every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on KJRadio's Rumble channel, their Facebook page, and their Twitter feed. So that you can watch me on those podcasts. But if you want to just listen to me live, you download the KJRadio.com app and listen to me on their radio platform. Now, you can also catch me on Twitter at LEC I talk about a wide variety of things. And I participate in a lot of the spaces. I haven't been participating last week or so because I've been watching the baseball and we're remodeling the house here. So I've been a little busy, but there's a show on Spaces that I join frequently. It is called Political Theater. It's 9 o'clock at night till 12 midnight. Eastern Standard Time. That's easier for me because I'm in California, so it's 6 to 9 for me. So it's manageable for me, but it's with Walter Kurt. Walter's been on my show a couple of times. He was deeply invested in the Virginia race, and I know he's disappointed at the loss. Now, I'm supposed to have a couple guests from Chicago Flips Red, but I don't think that's going to happen today. I haven't seen the guests show up. And so we're going to do, what do they tell me in the academy, the Sheriff's Academy? When I was going to the academy, I was 21 years old. You have to be flexible. And so we're going to be flexible today, and we're going to switch. If my guests show up, we'll bring them up and we'll talk to them about what's going on in Chicago. If not, we've got so much we can talk about, right? So much we can talk about. Now, I do want to give you guys a heads up. I sit on the board of the LA Mission, and we're coming up on Thanksgiving and Christmas. Those are the two big times of the year for the LA Mission. Now, I just do a gala event. And I wasn't big into the Foo Fighters, the band, the Foo Fighters in the 90s, but the guy who started the band showed up. He's very supportive of the LA Mission and Hope of the Valley. We did a joint gala with them, and who services, I think they have like 30 locations and over 3,000 beds, and the mission has about 85 beds. A little different mission. They just give them a bed for night and some food and a shower and some clean clothes, where the LA Mission does those things, but they bring people in and give them wraparound services to get them reintegrated back in society. So I just want to encourage you to go to the LA Mission, LosAngelesMission.org, and consider making a donation for the day. And we're coming up on Thanksgiving. It is that time of year to be generous. If you got something to be thankful for, check out the Los Angeles Mission at the LosAngelesMission.org and make a donation today. I was just talking to the producer about the homeless problem, and she saw a documentary, and so I want to point out that a lot of the homeless are dealing with addiction, and that is absolutely true. And in these blue cities where the DAs are not filing drug charges, because in the past we used to file the drug charges and they'd go to court. And if they were a good candidate, the judge would direct them to drug court or some kind of treatment program. And you try to deal with their addiction. But once you take the criminal justice system out of it and it's just nonprofits, the way it kind of looks at me is it just kind of builds a system where you're incentivized not to cure, but just to manage. In fact, I did some research on Portugal. Portugal has no drug laws, right? They don't charge anybody for drug use there, and it's basically free to use. And but they used to focus on, well, let's just treat them and treat their addiction. But that has migrated to more, let's just maintain and manage their addiction versus treating their addiction. In fact, I read this quote from somebody who was involved in that, and their comment was as well, using drugs is a human right. And so you can see how that morphs over time to a mission of treatment and sobriety and recovery to one of maintenance, because the money's in maintenance. The money ain't in getting people healthy, right? And so that's a problem. But the Los Angeles Mission, they try to get people healthy. So look up the Los Angeles Mission today and at LosAngelesMission.org and make a donation. Like I said, Thanksgiving and Christmas are coming up. I intend to be down there and be serving turkey dinner the day before Thanksgiving at the Los Angeles Mission. So you'll be helping me out because you'll help buy some of the food and some of the other stuff that goes along with it. But before we get into if the Chicago folks show up, before we get to them, I wanted to talk about, and this was brought to my attention by my producer, Amanda. TMZ is frustrated with the closure. I guess they've been talking about the closure, and we're at day 36 now. So this is the longest closure of government. And so out with their asses. That's what TMZ is doing. Well, let's roll their clip. Let's roll their clip.
Yeah, it just, I was watching, you know, I got to stop because it's so triggering me. I'm just sick of watching all of these ridiculous politicians just blaming each other. And now the air traffic controllers got a zero paycheck. Zero. So are we waiting for planes to crash into each other and then all of a sudden we say, oh, we got to do something? Is that what we're waiting for? That there's going to be a midair collision or some kind of a fatal collision because these guys have to work at night to make money and work during the day because they're essential workers. And there's already a shortage, so they're working overtime. So how long do we want to now wait? Are we all going to sit back and say, oh, I guess the politicians will handle it, so we'll just kind of sit back and, yeah, the Democrats are blaming the Republicans and the Republicans. Get rid of all of them now. Just say out with their asses. OTWA.
You just messed it up.
Get rid of them.
You just messed up your own slogan.
Take a stand before planes start crashing, because it's going to happen. Do you really think it's not going to happen? Where there are thousands of planes in the air and these guys are working overtime, then have to work at night, stressed out because they're not making any money, standing in line at food banks, and you think things are going to turn out well? And, you know, Mike Johnson is saying, oh, they're doing the Lord's work in their district. Bullshit. They're doing the Lord's work in their district. Their asses should be in Washington, D.C., and they should be opening the government. And the Democrats are bullheaded too. And at a point, guys, you want to sit back. How'd you feel if your family's on one of those planes that crashes?
All right. You know, it's funny. I'm not I don't watch TMZ all the time, and it's out with their asses, meaning get them out of those seats, is I think what Harvey is talking about. Now, when TMZ first started, I remember that Harvey was a little more buttoned up. The Harvey Levin was a little more buttoned up. He had a little more presentable clothes. Now he's in a T-shirt and Dockers, and he's got, you know, I'm sure he dyes his hair because I think he's a little older there. I don't, you know, he looks a lot younger in that film, but he's anyways. But his thing where he's focusing on the politics of 36 days, I do agree with, hey, it's time to reopen government. I absolutely, is he 70? I think he's 74, my producer says. So I hit the nail on the head. He's an old man trying to look young. He looks younger than me, and I'm more than 10 years younger than him, right? So, okay, Zoe's here. But let me finish with this thought. And so anyway, so TMZ, they're out with their asses because they got to open a government. I did some research on this. So here's the deal. So the air traffic controllers, ICE, and most of the federal agencies have to work. If you're considered critical, you have to work without pay, right? If you're not considered critical, they can send you home and you sit at home and you will still get paid, right? And so that's how it works. There are some federal agencies like the FBI have some money that will continue their pay, but even that is limited. So I agree. It's time to get these guys paid. You know, they're doing critical work. Certainly TSA, I know a lot of people don't like TSA, but, you know, I was around when they were founded. I was working with the TSA folks, met with the TSA director at the time. And because TSA also is responsible for all transportation, not just airports, freight rail and passenger rail. And I was the chief of police for the LA Metro. So I met with them all the time. They do a great job. So does obviously the air traffic controllers do a good job. And we got all these coppers out there doing a good job for the federal agencies in these sanctuary cities where they're being resisted and they're being attacked. Not a good deal. But so I do agree with Harvey in the fact that let's get these people back to work. Call your congressman, call your senator, and pressure them. You know, I don't. I think I see it as more a Democrat thing than a Republican thing, but that's just me. But yes, I agree with Harvey on we need to get them back to work. Okay, but hey, I got one more video I want to show you before we bring on my guest. So my guest did show up, so we will be talking about Chicago today. But this is a video. Now you remember I had a show on a patriot who was targeted for termination, Tom Speciale. And he got an opportunity at a forum to jam up the former CIA director, John Brennan. And I got video of that. And I had a great conversation with Tom. I appreciate you go back and take a look at that show. But let's roll with that video, the John Brennan.
There was an email that went around from General Clapper to yourself and Hayden I'm sorry, not Hayden.
That's right.
Yourself and Comey, etc., that basically said we all got to get on board with this, otherwise it isn't going to work, basically. And I think that email puts everybody in the crosshairs. I would like to hear what your justification was for supporting the dossier that was known to be false being used as source material in the second ICA.
I don't know who put you up to this.
Nobody put me up to this, sir. I'm here on my own.
I don't know what role you played or who you are, but it's a bunch of bullshit you just passed on.
Absolutely. The emails are clear, sir.
Bullshit.
The emails are clear. The emails are clear. The second question.
No, I think we're going to go.
Next.
Look, we can talk about it. Talk about it in the reception.
Russian disinformation.
No, we didn't say that. Get your facts straight.
You said it was likely Russian disinformation.
No, we did not. We said
yes,
it.
you did.
No.
In that memo,
read the letter. I'm
ignoring.
ignoring. Okay.
And I know I'm going to get uninvited
Yeah.
to the after hours.
No,
you're done.
Come on. All right, we're going to go over here.
This is disinformation.
Let's go over here for a question. Thank you very much.
Why didn't you on the Hunter Biden? Why? Because I think, and you misrepresented that. We never said it was disinformation. We said it was Russian influence operations, which is what they do. There's a big difference between influence operations. No, you don't know that. Yes, you don't know. Comey knew.
The literature said it had all the hallmarks of.
We didn't say it was Russian disinformation. We said it had all the hallmarks of Russian disinformation, knowing full well that the media would then fire hose that around and then change that to basically say, yeah, it's Russian disinformation. And when they did that, at any point did you stand up and say, well, actually, I didn't say it was Russian disinformation. I said it has all the hallmarks. Nope, you were quiet. You were complicit in the lie being spread. You knew it was Hunter's laptop. You lying sack of crap. I hope you go to jail.
Yeah, I pulled this off somebody else's podcast, but the thing about it, okay, so I'm on 38 years in law enforcement. I'm looking at this guy getting really uncomfortable. You know what? If I'm not guilty of anything, it's like, whatever, another accusation, no big deal. Because when you testify on the stand, they attack you all the time. But if you're right, whatever. Here's the facts. I don't have nothing to hide. Here it is. Let me lay it out to you. You didn't get flustered. But Tom's been on my show, and I didn't do the preamble to the first confrontation where Brennan is on the panel, but Tom lays out who he was. National security contractor, worked at the DNI, the defense. It's a defense intelligence folks. So he's an intelligence guy, right? And he saw the emails indicating that they knew that the Steele dossier was fake. They knew it was fake. And what he's talking about, when you did the second, I think he called the ICS, whatever, what that meant is they used the Steele dossier to justify the continuation of spying on Trump. And it's in an email. They found emails to show that. So that means they show that the probable cause that they had to get a warrant, they knew it was false. And they did it anyways. That's what he means, that the email puts a target on all their backs. Because everybody who knew and validated the dossier, knowing it was false, because it was going to be used as probable cause and evidence to get a search warrant against Trump, now is guilty. He's guilty. And I know I said this on my show before. Think of the Breonna Taylor case. Those coppers, I think it was Louisville, they bootstrapped a warrant with false information, and then they sent a team to serve that warrant. So the team that served the warrant, who got in the shooting and killed Breonna, didn't know that this was a bootstrap warrant. They didn't know there was any misinformation or lies in the search warrant. But they found that there were lies, and those people went to federal prison. The officers, the detectives who wrote that went to federal prison, as they should have. Now we got the most senior people in our government allowing misinformation to be used in a warrant to spy on our newly elected president. Now, I'm sorry, that's corrupt. Now, the second thing he talked about was the Hunter laptop. They got an email there too, where they talked about, we need to give Joe Biden something to talk about to defuse this whole Hunter laptop thing. I'm not using the exact language, but to defuse the whole Hunter laptop thing by saying it's Russian disinformation. And that's exactly what they did. And Joe Biden said that on the stage at the debate. And that's, you know, that's a violation. You know, some of these people were actually working, the 51 intelligence people who verified that were actually working in the government at the time. And so that was a lie. That was a misrepresentation. That was a deception. That was interfering in an election. That's what he was asking about. And you saw the body language of John Brennan. He was moonwalking away from that stuff as quickly as he could, trying to use anger and frustration to shut this guy down. But this guy is an intelligence guy. He saw the emails. He knows the truth, and he jammed them up. And I've had Tom on my show. Go back and listen to him. I'm going to try and bring him back. I figure right now he's very popular because this video went viral. But I wanted to share it with you guys because you guys have been the beneficiary of seeing Tom in the past. So, but hey, we're gonna go back to Chicago now, and we want to flip Chicago red, is I think what we want to do. And let's roll with a video first of my guest. We're gonna bring her on in a minute here, but I wanted to roll with the video, and this is Zoe.
Y'all don't care about the U.S. Constitution at all. Y'all don't care about it at all. The city of Chicago is the most corrupt city on the planet, and it's run by a Democratic machine. And you guys have been doing this for decades. You guys have been taking our generational wealth. The blacks helping as well. And it's going to stop because Trump is getting in office. And the first thing that's going to happen is the Department of Justice is going to come here. You don't know how to govern. You don't.
So I want every gang member, no matter what you want to vote, fight for, whatever, etc. I want y'all to line them polls up. We flipping red.
I'm telling you, Brandon Johnson, from my heart to yours, Trump 2024. No more blue, no matter who.
Yeah, I love that. No more blue, no matter who. You know, so yeah, so this is a group that I've been watching, and let's bring on Zoe. She's the president of Flip Chicago Red. Hey, Zoe, how are you?
I'm well. Thank you for having me. I'm currently leaving City Hall now from the public safety budget hearing.
Oh, good for you. Now, so
yes.
So I've seen some of your videos before. I have had a guest on my show, a regular. He's from the Chicago Contrarian. And he told me about you guys. We talked about you guys, Chicago Flips Red, and then I was on another show. I was on Spaces with Walter Kurt. So it's this show that's on X, and they talked about you. And I knew you. I go, hey, I know who those guys are. I've seen several videos, and so I've enjoyed your videos. I like the fact that you're bringing the heat to the mayor, and you're holding them accountable. But you formed an organization to flip Chicago red, or at least to get it to purple and try and change some of the policies here. So tell us, what motivated you? What are you guys up to?
I started Chicago Flips Red due to the city of Chicago unlawfully demolishing my family's building. It's been in my family since 1965, and that is violation of the 5th Amendment and the 14th Amendment. And once fighting and asking and pleading for help, I realized that we were in a lot of trouble, Black Americans specifically, because we always only vote one way. Yeah. And we vote one way, and it's hurting us. And the slap in the face was the illegal immigration invasion. You have myself and Jessica Jackson, who was the last person who said, vote no matter, wasn't whatever she says at the end, but we're both fighting. They're trying to take her family's property that's been in her family since the 60s as well in South Shore. And then you're dealing with myself, and you're not getting any help from your representatives, but they're sitting here saying that the reason why we don't have anything is because of white supremacy and the Republicans are the devil.
Yeah, all right. So just to give you a little bit of clarity, Zoe. So I'm coming to you from Los Angeles. I live in the same neighborhood as the Kardashians, but I was born and raised in the city of Detroit. So and I left Detroit as a young man. So I understand some of the corrupt politics that go on in the deep blue cities. So I wanted to get into the eminent domain thing, because that sounds like a personal issue for you, and it The fact. So tell us what happened. So did the city want your property and Jackson's property? Is that what happened?
Yeah. So I don't know if are you familiar with TIF, the tax increment financing?
I am. Yes. In fact, Florian Sohnke from the Chicago Contrarian talks about it. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So the property was in a TIF zone, and then of course with the help of Tim Scott and Donald Trump, they made the opportunity zones.
Right.
Because of the Obama Center, that is terrible. I don't know if you've seen how it looks. It's absolutely
looks like a bunker. Looks like a bunker. Looks terrible. Yes, you're right.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So because they're making the Obama Center and then the Psi Quantum that is going to be in South Shore, they are pushing us out of our communities because they want those properties for gentrification, but do not want to pay. So what they've done in our communities is they have said that they are knocking down buildings because of police powers, and police have nothing to do with it. But that's what the Democratic Party does. The Democratic Party always makes sure that they put it on law enforcement.
Yeah.
They have used that for so long in our communities that we have this division. So they put everything on that. The city of Chicago is running an illegal eminent domain scheme in the buildings department in the name of police powers and sorry if I'm downtown.
That's okay. That's okay.
and they're getting away with it because they're paying off the judges, they're paying off the prosecutors. You cannot find a lawyer that's willing to take it. And we have normalized it in our communities as this is just what Chicago does. We can't get any help. And that's not true. That's not true at all. You know what I'm saying? So
let me ask a couple questions here, because I'm 38 years in law enforcement. So they're doing an abatement on your property, suggesting there's crime issues. That's why they're doing the abatement. Is that right?
Well, no, they say building violations.
Building violations.
Building violations with no court orders. So they're just knocking it down, but they use police powers, the reason why they don't need to get a court order.
Okay,
but my mother went and got a police report from the police because that's not the case. So if I would have sued the police in the city of Chicago and the buildings department, they would have settled the case because they would have put it on the police. But because I am suing the city of Chicago, the buildings department, the aldermen, because it falls on those three people, my case is still sitting in federal court without an answer. We can't even go to discovery because I have all of the evidence, including a voicemail from the city of Chicago Law Department. But because this city is so corrupt and because the buildings department has been getting away with knocking down buildings, bypassing court, bypassing compensation, by just saying, it's police powers, they continue to get away with it. Now that I have brought it to the forefront, and now that Chicago Flips Red is nationwide, if they settle that case right now, you already know.
Yeah. Okay, so where your property is located, where Obama's thing is, it's in South Chicago, Chicago.
Yes,
right?
all in Grisham.
Right. So it's a high crime area, right?
Yes.
Would that be accurate? Okay. And who is actually getting control of the property? Is it the city that gets control of the property and then they lease it out to somebody else? Are they the ones allegedly trying to give you some money for the property? Or is it a developer?
It's a developer. They work with developers. So, for instance, in my case, we had 10 lots. Six lots has a grocery store on there that we're not getting paid for. Right. Then 4 lots is where the city of Chicago knocked down our building and we have not got paid. Now we have the land.
Right.
We have the land, but we just have not been compensated for the grocery runs, the government run grocery store that's on our property and the building that they knocked down, our commercial building that they knocked down.
Yeah, so let me back up because I think I got to explain some folks to the audience a little bit. So the enterprise zones that Zoe's talking about, this is basically how it works is when the federal government declares an enterprise zone, you don't have to pay taxes on a lot of the taxes fall away. So they're giving that area a chance, and they usually do it in historically
Blighted
deprived areas,
areas.
blighted areas. And so now people roll in. It's supposed to bring in money and business and investment because they can make like I think in Detroit they did it with who's the people who do the Intuit, right? Intuit. So I think Detroit moved in Detroit because it was an enterprise zone. Intuit, and I think they do spreadsheets and they do TurboTax, right?
Mhm.
And so so it was a great thing for them because they could develop their business in the city of Detroit and without having to pay a lot of taxes. So this is what they did to the South Chicago, right? To help build development. And so then the city said, "Ooh, let's take this property away from historic owners, you guys, black folks that live there who've owned the buildings for years, and let's give them to our developer friends, and they'll of course make donations to us, and they might even put some of our friends on the payroll, some of our family on the payroll, right? And then we'll get a little piece of the action when they build what they want to build, and we'll give a little bit of money. We'll give some pennies to the people who had the property." Is that it? Do I got the scam?
That's a scam. That is a scam. And how and we haven't even they didn't even offer us pennies.
Yeah.
You know
Well,
what I'm saying? But that's the scam. That is the scam. And the scam has been working for so long that now you have someone like myself and Miss Jessica that our office is the second floor chambers at City Hall every day, telling them, "Hey, you still have not settled our case. You still won't settle our case." But now it's so big that right now I have another person that's in our group, Danielle Carter. I'm pushing for her to run for mayor.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Why not? Okay, so here's the thing. I've had Florian Sohnke on, I think like 8 times. I had another guy from just outside of Chicago on, and now you on. So I'm a lot more familiar with Chicago politics, I think, than the average Angelino. So Chicago's been a blue city for 100 years, right?
100 years.
And so this is, and they've relied on the black women to vote Democrat all these times, and never blue, no matter who, as we heard from Miss Jackson said there.
Yeah.
And you guys are. How is that being taken? How are you guys being received by the rest of the folks in your community? How's that going? Are you being targeted off? Because if sometimes you're a Republican, I get targeted just because I'm a former cop and a Republican on Twitter all the time. How is that working with you and Danni C?
Now it's mixed. But I will say that a lot of people are getting on board. A lot of people that are my age, younger, they understand that it's not I don't try to bring the race in. If it gets there, it gets there. But economically, it doesn't make any sense for us to continue to vote for a party that makes money off of our trauma, makes money off of us being poor. They don't want us to excel in any type of way. So you have to you can be an independent voter, and you're not being an independent voter because you just think that blue is it and blue is not it. Blue is terrible.
Yeah, so you heard my pedigree from Detroit, blue city.
Yeah.
And in LA, been mostly a blue city. There's been some Republican mayors and governors here in California, but for the most part, it leaned blue the whole time. And we have a really strong, powerful blue machine here now. Although I think Chicago is way ahead of us. But what I notice about when you have one party rule is they just keep finding new ways to make sure that they stay in power. And new ways to push people down. Now, I wanted to really talk about one more issue here related to your family property, and you talked about it in your bio, and that is generational wealth. So when these guys steal this property from you and give you pennies on the dollars, if that, it's taking the opportunity away from you and your family who have invested in the South Side of Chicago for decades, who've been through the 80s and 90s and all the tough years, and you hung in there. And it's right when that property is valuable, they're taking it away from you. And that does not allow you to build generational wealth, which is what all these policies in the 60s and 70s was all about, right? Helping the Black community build generational wealth so they can pass on that to their kids, give them a chance to go to college, do all those things that we all believe in. That's what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, and I think the issue is, and as you saw yesterday with the election, and I'm originally from New York, so to see Madami getting there, we prevailed the Reagan era, the crack epidemic era, the '94 crime bill era, mass incarceration, and I feel like it's time for us to go back and talk about all that we went through, that the Democratic Party pushed, did not help. The Maxine Waters, none of them helped us. Now that we're here, and the homeless rate, honestly, Black will be the new homeless if we continue to vote blue. I don't care what nobody says. They're displacing us at a high rate, but they're making sure that people from other countries come here and get everything without making good of what you did to us. And you still, and I think, and it's an uncomfortable truth, but it's something that we have to start talking about, because if we don't, we're right now, as Chicago Fifth Red, we have a momentum. And what I see with the state GOP and the city GOP is they don't know how to help us. Right now, we can really get this city to turn red coming up.
Right.
But they don't know how to come into the community, and that's the only thing that the GOP is missing. Because when you look at how they vote, they've always vote in our best interests. Always.
Yeah.
And I said I'm going to start bringing that up, and I'm just going to tell them, you guys have to get in community, because that's the only thing that you're missing, and you will have us.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I know my guests from Chicago have said that. Florian Sohnke said that, and he has plenty of people that write for him that have talked about it, the Chicago Contrarian, and you can check him out. He's got a new podcast going, the Chicago Contrarian, the podcast.
That's my man. I always post him.
Yeah, do you really? Yeah, I know, and the thing about it is, you're right. It's mostly Republicans supporting school choice, which generally benefits children of color. Because most policies, when school of choice target the areas or the schools that have the least benefit, or they're struggling, right? And so the school choice always kind of raises it up a little bit. Doesn't quite get you where you need to with the suburban, but at least is better than what you had before, and at least gives parents an option. Is really the way I look at it. And I just want to just remind the audience, we are talking to Zoe from flipsred.com. So make sure you go check out our website, flipsred.com, and make a donation today. So I wanted to, you touched on it. So let's get into sanctuary cities. We might as well talk about that. How has the flooding of migrants or illegal migrants to the city of Chicago impacted the city, impacted communities of color that have been historically there? Thank you, Jason. But go ahead.
Yes, it's been terrible. This has been. I feel like Chicago has been abused, because we've always had a healthy, like we had I always call it, we have a healthy segregation. Everybody knows where you got the South Side, West Side, you got Little Village, you got Pilsen, you got the Polish, you got Irish, you got the Italians. Everybody is fine. If we all got to meet up, we meet up downtown, but everybody goes their separate ways. This time in 2021, and before that, even with Lori Beetlejuice Lightfoot, they invaded. It was an invasion to the point that it made everybody uncomfortable. And then when you go to your elected officials, they have nothing to say, because they've already been paid off. Yeah. And then they put it on law enforcement to the point that when I saw the police stations filled with illegals, that's when I realized like the police can't even do anything. We were it literally was like, okay, we are in a third world country. We're in a third world country with iPhones and Jordans.
So I was following Chicago, and Chicago started putting them in schools,
field
started putting them
houses.
in parks, recreation centers that were set aside for communities, and mostly in the areas, communities of color is where they went, right? I'm missing something here? This is
No,
true, right?
they dumped 20,000 illegal aliens into our communities. They displaced seniors, children. I mean, and no mainstream media covering it. No one covering it. It was honestly a nightmare. It was a nightmare to the point that you have to be insane, especially being black. I don't care what nobody said. You have to be insane to continue to vote blue. Like it was like a spin in our face. It was a spin in our face, and you're not going to do nothing about it.
No, I think on your website it did call out some things. So the kids ended up in school, so it made your schools overcrowded, right? It increased crime because these weren't all just hardworking immigrants. Some of them were violent criminals, right? And they started dealing dope, even ones that wouldn't necessarily be criminals. The only avenue they had was slinging dope, so they took it, right? And it also, here's the other one that it was a big one that here's happening here in LA. Those are happening in LA here too, but the cost of rent is skyrocketed because the government's giving them money, right? So they're competing now. They're competing with you and everybody else for housing, which of course causes the price of housing to go up. When you're pouring money into a place for housing, then the cost of everything goes up, and the cost went up for all the normal residents, right? So the cost of services went up, crowded schools, increased crime, overrun your parks, overrun your other government facilities because they're housing them there.
Hospitals were crowded, and the emergency rooms were crowded because you had our homeless, and then you had the illegal aliens in there. And then you hear Brandon Johnson. That's why it's like he's a trigger, because it's like you scream affordable housing, you scream that you're working for us, and you were not doing any of these things.
No, he's amazing. I had Florian Sohnke on from the Chicago Contrarian. He says, I think your mayor's worse, LA. I said, I don't know, man. That's a tough. I think Johnson is right out there. And now
Johnson's dangerous. He's a habitual liar.
He is a habitual liar.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree with you. But all right. So you're from New York too. So now our three largest cities are going to be run by Democratic socialists. Mamdani, in New York, Aaron Bass in Los Angeles, and Brennan Johnson in Chicago. Our three largest cities are going to be run by socialists. And so I'm not surprised. See, because you know what? You have grown up to the point where you're a property owner. So for a socialist, you're evil, right?
Yeah.
So they gotta take your property away from you.
They don't care. That's why that's why he's not doing anything. He's not finding a solution at all, to the point that he has silenced my group from even coming down there for city council to not even speak on that mic because everybody's watching. He's dangerous.
Yeah. So does he put you at the end, and then he doesn't, and everybody's gone by then? I've seen these rules at city council when groups like yours are just holding their feet to the fire. They find a way to make sure your voice is suppressed. So he is suppressing. So he could talk about freedom of speech. He could talk about the Constitution all he wants, but that only counts for people who believes the way he believes, right?
Right. They're trying to push they want a revolution. I don't know what revolution they're trying to get, because you don't even make any sense. But right now, between him still being in office, you have Mamdani, and then you're dealing with LA. If we do not start going to the United Working Families and protesting them, if we don't start protesting CTUs, all the teachers unions, then it's really no point of really. That's my next goal. My next goal is CTU, than the United Working Fair, any labor union that are tied in with these people, because they even the union workers, a lot of them are being held hostage.
Yes.
You understand? So but the narrative out here, because of mainstream media, is telling us something totally different. But everybody wants out. But it's like, how are we going to be able to get out? And I really honestly think it's going to take Chicago for red.
All right, let's get into it. I think I got a video, Chloe. So I'm going to show the video, but I want to talk about crime in Chicago. So let's roll with the video of crime in Chicago, and I want to get your thoughts on a couple issues related to this. Go ahead and roll the video, man.
Does Chicago have the highest murder rate of all the big cities?
Well, we are not in the top 30 in terms of our murder rate. Indeed,
well,
our murder rate it has been cut in half over the last 4 years, and every year it's gone down by double digits. And if you look at all of the violent crime over the last 4 years,
here's a map.
They've all gone down.
U.S. cities, 17.47 per 100,000 population. Chicago is number one over Philadelphia, Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Phoenix, Los Angeles, New York, and San Diego.
What I'm explaining to you
now
is
you're
when
talking
you want
about
to fight
violent
crime. Look, you can pull statistics up.
No,
I can
these are
too.
murders.
I'm explaining to you that our murder rate has been cut in half. And very importantly, Brett, and you got to hear this, very importantly, we've been doing the things that are necessary to bring crime down, right? We've invested in community violence interruption. We've invested in police.
So he drives me crazy. 38 years in law enforcement, and his lips are moving. He's lying. You know, I did a show probably about 6 months ago, and I was doing on crime, and I had Florian Sohnke from the Chicago Contrarian on, and I had no clue the homicide rate. And 2 years after Kim Foxx took office, it was over 800 homicides in the city of Chicago. That was back to 1990 homicide rates, and nobody was talking about it. Nobody. Yeah, they haven't quite cut the homicides in half. I think they're a little over 500, maybe like 550 this last year, and that's still almost twice New York and at least probably 40% more than Los Angeles. Chicago by far has a ton more homicides, and you get guys like him and Brendan Johnson. Oh, we invested in our community. We invested in violence interrupters. The last thing they think, they should be investing in law enforcement, and they refuse to do it. They refuse to say it. And I'm thinking about, because here's where I am right with you. These policies are not helping communities of color. I mean, I policed communities of color. I policed the city of Compton. They were right in the top 10 when we took over. The LA County Sheriff's Department took over. We cut that in half. And you know what? They tried to get rid of us, the leaders. The community kept us because it was safer, because we did our job. And they're not letting the Chicago Police Department do their job.
No, they're not.
Homicides are skyrocketing. The people who are dying the most are people of color, and these same politicians keep lying about it. So give me your thoughts on crime in Chicago and what should happen.
So today, like I said, I was at the public safety meeting, and Superintendent Snelling said that we have 8,000 police vacancies, 400 police officers retired this year, and then they're looking to hire 400 police officers. They're in the queue. But the fact that we have 8,000 police vacancies in the third largest city in the country should tell you everything that you need to know. I was looking at Cook County Sheriff Dart the other day, and they haven't. This is the first time that anybody ever talked about this. From railroad arrests, from people stealing off the railroads, 65,000 arrests. 65,000 arrests last year. So I need to understand. I need to understand, why will he not, Governor Pritzker and Brandon Johnson, let Tom Homan come in and at least get, like I said, make it easier to get the illegal aliens out. And if you can't, I've been asking President Trump, honestly, to bring the military in. And I feel like we have to bring the military in, because we are at a point of no return. We're just not. We're not, and we have our own elected officials who are working with the cartel, letting this continue to happen, because they're getting bankrolled. Everybody getting money, and we have an active genocide going on in our communities, and it's starting to be really black and brown. You got little villages. There's starting to be a lot of executions over there, and then you're dealing with the executions that's happening on the south side and the west side, and there is a bad batch of heroin that's on the west side right now. There has been 25 heroin deaths just this weekend, and nobody's talking about that. I just happened to get that from a police buddy.
So say there's get 25 deaths due to a bad batch of heroines just in one weekend.
Just in one weekend. On the west side, somebody sent me a picture of a guy laid out 5 blocks from Brandon Johnson's house on the west side in Austin.
Yeah, it's, and you know what that probably is because I read I'm big on the fentanyl overdose stuff. I've been talking about that stuff for 2 years, and they're probably mixing fentanyl in there with the heroin.
Yeah.
And these guys that chip in heroin, and they've been doing it for years, suddenly get a batch with fentanyl in them, and it overcomes them, and they die. That's what the National Institution of Health is showing. But here's the thing about whether it's L.A., New York, or Chicago. They won't prosecute these drug dealers. Now, that's probably a little different under Eileen Burke. She's probably prosecuting now, but you still need jail space. And I think your jail is being run by the sheriff over there who's down with the cause. Nobody goes to jail. Everybody gets out.
No one goes to jail. No one goes to jail.
And Brendan Johnson's the same way. And, it's just doing a disservice. So I wanted to touch on one other thing related to crime. First of all, I'm glad to see crime is starting to dip a little bit in Chicago. I think that's just serendipitous. I don't think anything.
I think one of my police friends said that it is actually moving out to the south suburbs.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, he's like crime is not down. It's just moved to the south suburbs.
Yeah, you displace it, right? That's what you do. Yeah. Okay, ShotSpotter. You mentioned it on your website. I'm familiar with the technology. We've used it here in LA. And I was tracking that story in Chicago, and I was stunned that they got rid of that technology, because when you understand what's going on in Chicago, the people won't talk to the police because they're afraid of being targeted when there's a shooting in their community for being a witness. When snitches get stitches, right? So they don't talk. And the value of ShotSpotter, at least from my eyes, is the cops hear a shooting, they roll there, they find the victim, maybe they find the suspect too, and nobody has to say anything. The ShotSpotter was the silent witness that always listened and always said, "We got a problem," right? And then Brendan Johnson got rid of it, and why would he do that to his, he's a black man. Why would he do that to his own community? I don't understand, because I was really frustrated because it wasn't that much money in comparison to how much they spend and waste in Chicago. The benefit, in my opinion, was great.
It was Jessica right here.
Hey, how are you doing, Jessica? So what do you think? ShotSpotter, bad idea that they got rid of it, right?
Yeah, ShotSpotter was a terrible idea. Yeah, it was a terrible idea. When he got rid of ShotSpotter, I knew that we were in trouble because he didn't flinch. He did say that he was going to find an alternative, never did.
Right.
And we're at 60, we call it Brandon bodies, 60 Brandon bodies where if ShotSpotter would have still been there, we probably would have been able to save a life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he has no alternative. Again, we're 8,000 police down. He wants to defund the police. He's actually, in this budget, he's taken out all of any type of money that's supposed to go to the youth. He's taken that out. He's laying off people secretly in the department. He also took away the suicide. They had a department that works with officers who commit suicide.
Right.
He took the budget out of. He just took that out completely out of the budget. So he's the devil. Honestly, like he doesn't care about. I don't even think he cares about himself. He is a Marxist, and he took an oath to whoever he took this oath to, which is probably the devil, and he is fulfilling their agenda, and their agenda is not for the American people. They're not for Chicagoans. They're not for law enforcement at all. Matter of fact, if he can get rid of all law enforcement except his 120 police detail, he would. And he wants people to police the streets who are still wearing masks in the 2025. I mean, we're dealing with a liberal mental health undiagnosed crisis in the city of Chicago, and we can't get any type of help.
Yeah, I got to explain that to the audience. So Mayor Brendan Johnson has a 120-person security detail for him and his family from the Chicago Police Department, and are down 8,000 people. I could staff a station with 120 people. It'd be a small station, but I could police a community with that. And he does it just for himself. And he says Chicago's safe. Well, if Chicago's safe, why does he need 120 people to protect him, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So, all right, I wanted to talk to you about something else. You said on your website that he is we're $1 billion in debt, and he's pushing out no bid contracts. Want to talk about that?
1.5 billion.
1.5, and he's pushing out no bid contracts to friends of his. That's what he's doing, right? Is that what he's doing? Yes. All right, wait, we only got 2 minutes left, so I want to do something a little different, Zoe. We're coming up on Thanksgiving. You know, there's 2 things I want to ask you. If you had one restaurant to go into Chicago for Thanksgiving, what would that restaurant be? And number 2, what is the number one thing you would be thankful for going into Thanksgiving? Even though we talked about a lot of down stuff, there's positive stuff too. So what are you thankful for, and what restaurant would you go to in Chicago if it was all paid for?
If it was all paid for, that all the great restaurants are not here anymore. But if I had to pick one, Rana Japan is still a staple here.
Okay.
Rana Japan, and then what I'm thankful for Thanksgiving. Chicago Fish Red. Chicago Fish Red. I'm thankful for my group. It's a mighty 8 of us, but we have a lot of support. I'm thankful for the law enforcement for protecting my group while we're out here fighting this status quo. And I'm thankful that I still have my mother here to watch me fight and live in history while we both are unhoused, while our beautiful mayor is talking about affordable housing every day, while he refuses to settle my case so me and my mother can have housing.
All right, Zoe. Hey, thank you for joining me. I'll let you get back to your stroll, and great update of what's going on in Chicago. And
yes,
check
you can
out.
have me anytime. It's budget hearing, so that's why I was down here. But you have me anytime, and I will bring Danielle next time.
All right. Thank you so much, Zoe, and we will see you later. Good luck and fight a good fight in Chicago. All right, folks. I think we are at the end of our show, Amanda. And I just want to thank the folks for joining us again today. As you see, we are bringing some very interesting guests on the show, even if they gotta go to budget meetings and walk down the streets of Chicago. They will join us here on Briefing with the Chief. And thank you again today, and we'll see you next week on Briefing with the Chief.